Alright guys, so today we're going to have vocab. The heading for this is segments and angle bisectors. So our first word here, let me go ahead and zoom it out, is going to be midpoint. The midpoint of a segment is the point that divides or bisects the segment into two congruent segments. Alright, so pretty important. The word bisect, that means that you cut in half, right? You cut right down the middle. So when you bisect a segment, that means that you're cutting it into two equal pieces. The word congruent is a word we're going to use a lot in geometry, and congruent means that we're going to be of the same measure, so that when you cut the two pieces, that they will have the same measure. Okay, so congruent. So let's take a look here. Let's take a look at segment EF. So we have segment EF, and we are saying that line AB has bisected segment EF. So what that means is that line AB has cut segment EF into two equal pieces. Okay? And how we show that things are equal is we use tick marks. So this little tick mark here, let me add another point here. Let's add point C here. So what has happened is it's saying that segment EF, let's write that down, has been bisected, so it has been cut in half into two equal pieces, you might want to say, by line, I'm going to call this line AB. Therefore, segment EC, and this is how we show congruent. It's this little, it's like an equal sign with a little squiggly on top, is going to be congruent to segment CF. So again, when you are bisecting something, that means that you are cutting it. But not just cutting it anywhere, that you are cutting it directly in the middle, or what they call the midpoint. And what that happens is then you have two segments that are going to be congruent. And again, we show congruence in this class. It's like a little equal sign with a little squiggly on top. Okay? All right. Now, there's a couple of ways to find the middle of a segment. You can, if you have a ruler, you can measure the segment and divide it in two, and that will give you the midpoint. But in case you don't have a ruler, we have a formula that we can use. It's called the midpoint formula. And what that says is if you have point A, and you know the coordinates, x sub 1, y sub 1, and you have a point B, and you know the coordinates of that, x sub 2, y sub 2, and they are in a coordinate plane, then the midpoint, right, so where it got cut in middle, where it got bisected, of segment AB has the coordinates of x sub 1 plus x sub 2 over 2, comma, y sub 1 plus y sub 2 over 2. Now, these are coordinates, okay? So we're going to talk about that. Let's take a look at this picture. So what this is saying is if you want to find the midpoint of a segment, but let's say you don't have a ruler, so you can't measure how big the segment is or how long the segment is, then as long as you know the coordinates, then you are able to find the midpoint of the two. Now we will practice this tomorrow, and I will show you how to do this. Okay? So this is the midpoint of a line segment. Okay? All right. And then the last word we're going to have here is what we call an angle bisector. So now we're not looking at segments, right? We're looking at angles, and yesterday we had vocabulary on angles and how do you make an angle. So let's take a look at the definition here. It says an angle bisector. Now again, the word bisector means that you cut into two, and that you cut into pieces that are going to be equal, or as we say in geometry, congruent. is a ray that divides an angle into two adjacent angles. Now, the word adjacent means next to. So if anyone has Spanish with Miss Perot, we would say that my classroom and her classroom are adjacent to each other because they're right next to each other. So that means adjacent, that are congruent, okay? So let's take a look at this. So let's add some stuff to this picture. So if you have an angle, let's say that you have angle ABC, right? So angle ABC. You could also call this angle CBA, or you could also call it angle B, right? Because this is the vertex. And let's talk about a ray. Let's add some of these here. So what we are saying here is that ray BD has bisected angle ABC. So what that means is this ray BD has cut this angle in two pieces, and two pieces that are equal to each other, that are congruent to each other. The way we show congruence in a picture in geometry is we do little arcs and then we do ticks, okay? So we would say that angle ABC is bisected by ray BD. Therefore, the measure of angle ABD, so this angle right here, ABD, so this right here, is going to be congruent to the measure of angle DBC, which is this guy right here. Okay, sorry about that. So that's what we're saying here. So again, we're going to be talking about these words in more depth when we get into class. Again, you should have 3 vocabulary words. We should be down to 4 green papers because we've had 4 sets of vocabulary words. And we'll talk about this tomorrow. All right, bye-bye.